Chapter 3. Let's Get Sexy. Normal Sex After Prostate Cancer. Wow, he exclaimed after a barrel tasting of Zinfandel, to which I had just added 5% Petite Syrah. That's amazing to be able to taste all those flavors, and to have done so with such a small amount of a different varietal of wine. We see so little. As humans, we can perceive less than a 10 trillionth of all light waves. Yet we're fooled into thinking we see so much. Take the human brain. All day, every day, we walk around believing that what we hear, see, smell is the world. But in reality, we have access to only a tiny sample of the incredible information out there. To paraphrase David M. Eagleman, Ph.D., Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, Stanford University School of Medicine, a pioneering neuroscientist describes the problem like this. Your brain is locked inside a vault of silence and darkness inside your skull. All that everyone sees is electrochemical signals that come in along different data cables. And this is all it has to work with and nothing more. Amazingly, the brain is really good at taking in these signals and extracting patterns, assigning meaning, and puts together a story of your present reality. The thing is, your brain doesn't interact with reality directly. Never. Each of us create maps and models of reality, then kick off the scaffolding and forget that it was ever there. Do you think about the meaning of light, or simply respond to what you have learned that what you see is real? And does an untrained eye see the same painting as an artist whose own work is at the same or a higher level? When we think about a difficult past or worry about the troublesome future, we are blind to the source of those thoughts and the meaning-making machine that created them. Neuroscientists have confirmed that our experience of reality is constrained by our biology. And here's the cool thing. Science has already passed up many of the limitations created by our biology. Already work is underway to develop some remarkable add-ons that will make Google Glass and self-driving cars seem like technology from the 70s. There are currently some serious upgrades to our sensory capabilities, and it's all possible in part because your brain is remarkable at creating patterns. In fact, it is continually rewiring itself based on every new experience. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, author of How Emotions Are Made, recently said in an NPR interview that the brain is an emotion-making machine. The brain is like a corporation that is successful and ever-growing and ever-changing to adapt to the needs of the growth. It's so good they have already proven it's possible for deaf people to hear, not by hearing sound, but by feeling sound waves reflected every time someone speaks. And this is just the beginning of what's possible. So it is not so amazing after all that a simple paradigm shift about sex can be the beginning of you experiencing even better sex than you did before prostate cancer. But first, we need to examine what is normal sex and open ourselves up to a new normal. What is normal sex? We have spent so much time striving to have normal sex. And a lot of what we see and have learned to think about is around the question, is it or is it not normal? A normal activity, a normal desire, a normal fantasy, and about you yourself as a person, your partner, someone else. Are they or are they not normal? All societies have one thing in common. All of our cultures teaches that few things are worse than being sexually abnormal, and few things more important than being sexually normal. Think of it as a normality paradigm. We are taught from early childhood to question our normality. In our homes, school, religious institutions, medical, psychiatric, the mass media, advertisers, sellers wanting to sell us normalizing products. Is it any wonder that so much attention is given to being sexually normal, and that this results in it being difficult to be comfortable with our own unique sensuality and eroticism? What is your definition of sex? The disclaimer. The primary purposes of my writing this book is to create an environment where you, the reader, will safely challenge your beliefs about your sexuality. Because as you do anything, so you do everything, I will be offering you references and metaphors from life itself. I did not have sex with that woman. Was the former president of the United States telling the truth? Even when there was DNA evidence to prove his body fluids, sperm was on the accuser's clothing. This was for many a done deal for the then President Clinton, an impeachable offense, because he was obviously lying under oath. The court of social opinion and moral majority wanted him out of office. But was he lying? Yes and no? Perhaps as you read on, you will agree that it all depends on who your authority is and your particular belief system. Before reading further, pause and ask yourself, what is my definition of sex? More and more young people today are opting for virginity until marriage, but increasingly, they are having oral sex, anal sex, and a full assortment of pleasuring themselves with creative approaches. None of what they are doing is considered by them to be real sex, because none of this includes vaginal intercourse. How do they arrive at the conclusion that only vaginal intercourse is real sex? Was then President Bill Clinton telling the truth as he knew and believed it to be? They, as well as we, are bombarded with myths about what sex is not, how to, with whom, when, on and on. As mentioned earlier, information comes from our family of origin, religious institutions, limited school sex education classes, peers, radio, TV, print, and social media. We and our young children hear about Viagra and other magic happiness pills on nightly TV, as well as during Super Bowl football from the pharmaceutical giants. All are defining sex as intercourse. Trusted medical teaching and established medical institutions proliferate the internet and YouTube about the inability to have an erection because of the disease, erectile dysfunction, and impotency as a side effect of prostate cancer treatment. Various oncology centers claim that their procedure is more nerve-sparing than others, so the likelihood of permanent ED will not occur with their procedure. Here is an example of such information from UCLA Institute of Urologic Oncology. This educational material was made possible by a grant from the California Department of Justice Antitrust Law Section. Approximately 1/4 of the material is physiological, about the anatomy of the penis, prostate, and surrounding organs. Over 1/2 is dedicated to allopathic sexual rehabilitation, medical assistance for achieving an erection sufficient for penetrative sex. A statistically insignificant remaining amount of print is about what the man or his partner is to do if he is unable to have an erection. The publication in part states, if you are used to a close physical relationship, it is important to remember that hugs, cuddles, and kisses maintain intimacy, provide support, and do not have to lead to sex. Do not have to lead to sex? Clearly, the inference here is that sex equals erections and penetration. Unwittingly, they are perpetuating the myth that anything other than erections and penis penetration are not in the domains of sex. But for complete and normal sex, there have to be certain criteria met: foreplay, an erection, penetration, thrusting, one or more positions, ejaculation, and, if male-female, preferably one or more female orgasms. And, ideally, both the man and woman are coming at the same time. We have an agreed-upon, unexamined description of a particular activity, which is known as normal sex. Our social institutions are in agreement, and as we aspire to that ideal version of sex being penile penetration, intercourse, oral, anal, we are by default in agreement. Notice I use the medical term penile penetration as compared to the more accurate descriptors of has no containment or envelopment. Even though they are more accurate, penetration is used to describe normal sex and intercourse. This infers that men are the sexual initiators, not women. True normality has become intercourse as the preferred method of experience for having sex. Other sexual activities are subordinated, such as to prepare for intercourse is to take time for foreplay because the woman wants it, or as a little variety to intercourse preparation. Other activities are acceptable for some reason when you are unable to have intercourse, such as recovering from surgery, or, in the woman's case, childbirth. The result is that allopathic prostate cancer, sexual rehabilitation programs treat, not cure, erectile dysfunction for erections to again occur so the man can again have sex. Living in a goal-oriented, mechanistic culture, note Dr. Barrett quoted earlier, even uses the mechanisms of a corporation's growth as the metaphor for our brain's function, makes our myths understandable. Under these rules, sex then becomes a performance-based, rule-governed activity. Unfortunately, that means there are ways to fail. Now, compare that to explorations of your own and your partner's body. Explorations where there is no goal, no right or wrong way to do it, with the only evaluation being the enjoyment of the participants. What is normal? What is the structure of normality? The definition of normality changes from one historical period to another. Yes, we are in such a period at the publication of this book, and will continue to be irrespective of short-term political and religious outcomes, and from one culture to another. There are places in the world where people do not undress for sex to avoid shame or modesty. Orthodox Judaism strictly forbids all sex while a woman is menstruating and for 7 days afterwards. Rapid ejaculation is considered an expression of passion, not pathology, in Russia. Language has the double function of reflecting our inner reality onto the canvas of our outer reality. Our conceptualizing and interpretation of what is happening around as well as inside of us cannot happen without descriptive words. A sommelier has a vocabulary matched to their educated tastes and vision to describe and interpret wine flavors in ways beyond the capacity of the average person. Native Eskimos have over 80 distinctions and ways to make meaning out of what we simply collectively refer to as snow. Their survival in the elements depends on grouping together information and experiences. Likewise, as you have probably already come to appreciate, unlearning old definitions and learning a new normal takes us into and through a jungle of pressured consciousness to get to the open valley of self-fulfillment. As my nephew said when I told him about this portion of this book, changing our colored lens of perception that are constantly being chipped and honed with every experience is difficult. It's like there's only room for about 10% of new information at any given time. Without a lot of work, the 90% quickly takes over as if by default. Changing your attitude to a new normal, sex will make you a hero. You will be going up against and challenging your present culture, and with it, your physical, psychological, and spiritual reality.